regarding the recent election, and we want to shine light on the many students who are impacted mentally. Here we have 4 students today with us to engage in a thoughtful discussion on the relation between political anxiety and student mental health. Before we start, could you guys please introduce yourselves briefly?
Okay, I'm Oriolua.
I'm Francis. I'm in 12th grade.
I'm Trinity. I'm in 12th grade.
I'm Frankie. I'm in 12th grade.
Okay, so the first question. What are your initial thoughts from the recent election?
Well, at first I was really devastated. I kind of still am, but it was just like we have to repeat 2016 all over again, and we don't know how bad part two is gonna be this time. So we're just kind of like, well, you know,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of surprise at first for me, mostly because of how Harris's campaign went, how much money she raised, how much like people showed up to like the rallies and stuff. So for her to lose like pretty significantly was kind of surprising.
I was really surprised and like confused because I didn't think that many people wanted Trump as president. People kept saying Trump is not my president, and then he was all of our presidents. So I don't know where that came from.
I feel like I was definitely more surprised than anything, only because like from what I saw like on social media and stuff, it was all Kamala Harris. Like everything was supporting Kamala Harris. It was 100% her campaign. And then when she won, and I saw like the states that were red, I was just like, oh, okay,
yeah, like
that's how we roll.
Michigan really had me surprised though. Michigan,
Wasn't Florida a part of it too?
no, Florida wasn't a swing state. It was likely red though. Like before the election, it was likely red. But what really had me was Nevada and Michigan. PA, it was like, you can't really trust PA. But this one I was really shocked by like how far he won. Because in this election, it was the first time Republican had won both the Electoral College and the popular vote. And it wasn't even close, which was really like devastating.
Yeah.
Like if she was to if she was to win something, she would have at least won like a popular vote. But it's the fact that she lost both. Like the way she campaigned, she had so much fun. She raised like $1 billion in funding for her campaign. People showed up to the rallies. There were so many like trips for students to go like hear the voices and to like motivate them to go vote. And she lost, so it was really like it was a jaw dropper.
It kind of really pissed me off that she didn't really demand a recount. She didn't openly demand it. She didn't fight for it. And I feel like if she did, it would have had like I don't know, the results would have been a lot different because there were ballots that were lost, burned, people like their stations were shut down, for some people. It was just a bunch of like sketchy stuff one after another for this election.
Yeah, and I did the election poll working, and it really stuck with me how a lot of people didn't know where they were supposed to go to vote. A lot of people got moved around, so it was a lot of confusion when it came to where to vote. And also the people that were also working the polls with me, a lot of them didn't know how to do certain things, and they needed my help a lot because I did go to the training. And I was just wondering like if other poll places might have had like nobody else that really knew how to do things, so I feel like that could have really affected a lot of the votes as well.
Yeah, this election was definitely messier than most. It's like, especially like voting, why like places to vote. It's like from my friends that work the polls, like there was a lot of people that didn't speak English, and then like there was nobody to help them, so like they didn't know how to accommodate things, and then there was so many issues just with different places, and it's just like how are we supposed to run that?
I also think with this election specifically, there was a lot of fear, I guess, once the results came out for a lot of the more marginalized groups. I know for me personally, I identify as a guy, however, I am AFAB, and so I have to deal with not only the upcoming transphobia, but also the lack of healthcare for females in general, which was already scarce before and now will most likely become even more scarce.
Yeah, like honestly, like well, I'm black in America, so the healthcare system here is already not made for me considering how like even like a lot of Western countries, there's like a lot of like miscare or malpractice against black women. So I'm not sure how this is gonna go for like people like me who like need medication like iron pills and such. But it's like it's really scary.
Let's move on to the next question. How do you feel political discussions and events affect your daily life at school?
I feel like at school, I don't know. I feel like it's not as bad. You know, like I haven't had to argue with anybody with different political views or anything, but I feel like it definitely makes you look at some people potentially different because it's just like you see the way they acted after the election, so it's just like, oh, this is who you really are.
Yeah, literally. Like it's like after the election, you just don't know who to trust or who not to trust. Honestly, especially looking at the demographics of who voted for who. It's like, can I really trust you anymore? Like, or is this really who you are?
Politics has always been and will always be like around us, constantly happening in front of us, and so it's kind of hard to not have that in an educational setting, especially with how many like social science and government classes that we have. But yeah, I also think, at least in our school specifically, we have students that are very open minded, and there isn't a lot of fighting in that aspect because all of our views, for the most part, do align.
I
Yeah.
definitely agree with that. And I feel like if the views don't align, I feel like the people who do have like more, I don't know how to say it, more traditional views, if that makes sense, they aren't really as like loud about it, if that makes sense, especially when it partakes to politics. But I feel like as teens, it's either a lot of them were either Kamala Harris 100%, or it's like they just don't care. So I feel like I don't know. I feel like it wasn't as bad, especially since we do go to a school where we have a lot of people that aren't really necessarily educated on that topic. So it did make it easier, like stress wise. But you know, things always arise.
Okay, now the next question. What changes have you noticed in your stress levels or those of your peers during major political events?
Well, initially I was scared, and then it was like immediately the next day after November 5th, we were in government class, and my teacher was telling us how all the stuff that the Republicans in the executive, what they wanted to do would be impossible because America's democracy is pretty strong, as we can see. So, like, the outrageous unpopular stuff that they want to do in office most likely won't happen because obviously, like, you can't just take away a whole department of education. That's outrageous. That's wildly unpopular. So it gave me some level of like relief, but it's only for like 4 more years, I believe, or so I hope. So all we can do, even though we don't like the result, is to like endure and
Yeah.
what we've been doing for all this time of our lives living here. So yeah.
I think after the election and after the results came out, going to school, you can like visibly see how stressed people are. And it also doesn't help that that whole week after, all anybody talked about was the election and like how negative the outcomes could be. That was like the only conversation going around. In a more broader sense, I do think that happens in general in any like major like event or like political event like happens. You can see people in the halls visibly like stressed out.
Yeah, not to mention the atmosphere and like the whole general vibe of the school was really like dim. it was really silent. Like I remember walking in, I was late. People's eyes were red. It was really quiet in the hallways, and the energy was just off. Like even my lit teacher did not feel like teaching. She just sat there like, what is going on? Like she was out of it.
Yeah, I know. And for me personally, the like October, November months are already like pretty hard for me mentally. That's kind of like when my seasonal depression hits. But then there's also the election on top of it. And the only way that I can really explain how I feel is this like perpetual bummed out feeling.
Mhm.
And like it's still kind of lingering even now.
Yeah, I know just being in school, I know a lot of people that have like foreign parents. I know a lot of them were scared about the outcome. I know I saw a couple of people crying just like out of fear because they didn't know whether like their parents were gonna be okay or like their sisters or brothers. So I think it was just overall like stressful situation because we know who our president is, we know his views, we know like the things he plans to do. So I think the people that were like actually going to be affected by it were definitely not having a good week.
Yeah, we can tell the pain they were feeling was visceral. Like it was visceral. It was visceral fear.
And I feel like there's like a lot to be scared about because with the Project 2025 thing, even if like we're not sure what's real and what's fake, so we don't know if like our parents are actually going to be deported. We don't know if the Department of Education is really going to get taken away. We don't know if FAFSA is really going to get taken away. So we're just stressing about things because we don't know whether or not they're going to actually happen and how much they're going to affect us. So it's like this huge fear around so many things.
Yeah, like a lot of things are very uncertain, and even though it seems impossible to like do all those things, get rid of FAFSA and the Department of Education, like we don't know what's gonna happen because the trust, like the percentage of Americans trusting the government dropped from 73% to 18% in the last like 50 or 40 years, which is really telling. So if people don't trust the government, how do we know if the Department of Education FAFSA is going to be taken away or going to be cut down in funding? We don't know. A lot of things are uncertain because we don't trust the government. But a lot of people don't.
And I feel like me personally, I was just really confused, especially when it became like the talk of like schooling and the education system. I just had a lot of questions, and I feel like there was nobody around me that could really answer those questions. So it's like as seniors, we're applying to schools. We're applying for FAFSA, we're applying for all this. So it's like, is this only like, is it going to be taken away after our class? Is it going to affect us in college? What schools are still going to be providing like wealthy scholarships? Like how are we going to look financially during the education system? And it's like I had to reach out to colleges, ask them questions about scholarships and about financial aid, because if the Department of Education, if they stop funding students, it's just like what is my college year going to look like? I'm already confused because what school am I going to, and how is that going to look for me now or in a couple years?
I see, like, on social medias, for example, there's so many, like, more right-wing people that are like, oh, you're being, like, so dramatic, like, when people are getting, like, upset and visibly stressed out. I hear it from, like, my parents of them, like, watering down the situation. And there is a likelihood that some of these policies won't be like a permanent law. They'll just kind of go away. But then there's also the likelihood of so many like human rights being completely taken away. And that's a really scary thought for everyone.
I think confusion, especially in such a big context, is always just concerning because like in every aspect of my life, how is it going to be affected? Especially when we have somebody as our president that he doesn't even know his own views. He don't know what he supports. He don't even know. So it's like if he don't know and he's supposed to be controlling all this and I don't know, my parents don't know, my teachers don't know, what is my life going to look like?
Concepts of a plan.
No real concepts, ideas, like no.
I have concepts of a plan. How do you have concepts of a plan but not an actual plan? That's
At
so
the end
weird.
of the day, we have seen him openly share his very conservative and very extreme views. And so it's not a large jump to assume he's going to try and pass bills and laws that are also equally conservative and extreme.
Do you think social media and news coverage has had on you or the people around you?
Oh, that's a
Dude,
good
that
question.
whole week, 2 weeks following the election, I couldn't go on social media.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't stand seeing all the headlines and all the people, half of them are crying and sobbing and are in hysterics because they're scared for themselves and their children, and then the other side is people being like, oh, you're being so dramatic, you're terrible, whatever. I couldn't go on social media seeing that stuff.
I'm not gonna lie, this might be a more unpopular opinion, but social media kind of helped me with this situation because I feel like being in school, my teachers couldn't answer questions, so I would have politicians or lawyers or people just come up on my For You page and actually explain the situation more, because I want to be a lawyer, so it's actually having social media and being able to see stuff like that, it helped me. And then this might not be the best take, but I saw a lot of memes about it. I'm not gonna lie, and it really did help me be able to de-stress, because being in school is there's so many people upset, there's people crying, there's people I don't know, it just wasn't the best vibe. So being able to go home and laugh about this situation more than be stressed out, it really did help. And it's just I don't know, social media during that time especially helped me be more educated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely depends on where you
Yeah,
are.
you're right.
And also what social platform you're on.
You're too.
Because
Sure.
when I was talking about not being on social media, I mean Twitter. I couldn't be on Twitter.
Nah.
I had Twitter's always just
Yeah.
iffy for
it's
me. I
always-
don't
it's
know.
so
It's
down
always, it
hill.
never
It's
makes
always
sense.
bad, and it's even worse.
No, ever since I it was mid-election, I had to uninstall Citizen, Twitter,
Yeah,
another app. I literally replaced Twitter for Blue Sky.
I love Blue Sky.
Blue Sky was made from the former Twitter CEOs before Elon Musk bought Twitter. Anyways, that's not important. There's this one funny meme where it was witches are trying to use curses on Donald Trump, and they said he has a shield. That meme was so funny because I'm you know what? You're so right. He does have a shield. Because what's going on?
Dude, we were talking about that's why Harry Potter is being banned in the book there.
That makes so much sense. The witches were trying to curse him, and it's a shield.
Okay, you guys have touched on this already a bit, but how did political disagreements affect your relationships with family and relationships?
They didn't affect mine. We all had the same general view. But from our reactions from the election, my mom was this is what America wanted. They suffered, let them deal with it. This is what we wanted.
It wasn't bad. I feel I have different political views than a lot of my friends. They're not conservative or anything or anti anything, but I do have a lot of friends that are registered Republicans and did vote for Trump. So I feel instead of arguing, it was more so just an educational standpoint, what are your views and what are mine, let's assess this. And I don't know, I did have to argue with a couple people. That's because I like arguing, so it was bound to happen regardless. But I feel it wasn't as bad, but it definitely opened my eyes for a lot of different things.
For me personally, me and my friends share similar political views, and so there was no disagreements in that area. My parents do share different political views than me. They aren't hardcore Republicans, but they do see things a bit more conservatively. And it got to a point where no one in my house would mention politics at all, because no one wanted to spark the chance of an argument. Overall, I do believe that it's gotten to a point where both political parties are very extreme right now, which makes it hard for a household to have people in it with multiple political views. I think 10, 20 years ago,
say really quickly that like the Republican Party has gotten more conservative. Like we can see it from Trump's presidency, and the Democrat Party is like split. Like it's a hot mess inside the Democrat Party. Like you have some that are just moderate, are trying to lean for more moderate voters, and some that are trying to lean for more like young voters. Because a lot of young people don't vote because their candidate options are just not up to their standards, and so I think this all goes back to why like Kamala lost and stuff. But that's for a whole other day. I'm not gonna go into that.
Honestly, in my household, we don't really have any differing political views, except for my brother, who was a Trump supporter for some reason.
What?
But he is not a citizen, so he can't vote anyway. Which is
Right.
funny.
How are you gonna have a view on something that you can't even like participate in?
Exactly.
Like that's
what
kind
I'm
of
so
crazy.
confused about. But yeah, so we haven't really had any arguments or anything. But I definitely see like online a lot. There are people who like start arguing and like they go hard about it, and they will start arguments just for the sake of argument, now not for the sake of like making any change or like educating anybody. So it's really just kind of hostile, and it's not really any change being done. And I feel like there's no point behind it.
Right.
And you really see that on both sides. Like it's not just one that just wants to argue. It's both of them, and neither are making a change in America at all.
I feel like that's why I'm really grateful for having people around me that have different political views than me. So it's not, because you know, sometimes things that I support aren't always 100% right. And I know that, and I feel like, so having people around me that do have different political views, it just allows me to be more educated rather than just being like, oh no, I support this person, I support this party, everything they do is right. You know, it allows me to see the wrongs on my side and the other person's side as well, which is good.
Okay, when political events feel overwhelming, what support system do you like rely on?
I just get off the internet
Yeah.
and I read a book.
Yeah.
Read a book.
If I'm feeling fancy, I just play video games. Honestly, like there's too much and it's everywhere. You can't really avoid it besides getting off the internet
Yeah.
and doing something that consists of paper or just not anything that's like of current events. You know, you can't really avoid it because politics affects our lives. Almost everything we do is affected by politics. SEPTA. Why is it so bad? It's because of people who are in our local government. That's why it's so bad. You know, you can't really avoid it. So it's either I read a book or I sleep all day. You
No.
can't really avoid it.
Yeah, me too. I think because I completely disconnect from anything even revolving like politics. But I also like I kind of feel bad as well because it also limits my ability to be educated in certain aspects. Yeah.
I feel like there's never anything like that's too political that's stressing me out too much. But I feel like talking to people who really like pretend they don't care about politics, I'm not gonna lie, it really helps. Cause it's just like they don't know what they're talking about. Like I'm cool, like, and I feel like I have so many people around me that just be like, oh, I don't know about politics or I don't care about it. So shit, we gonna hang out today, cause you don't know what you're talking about. Oh,
No,
sorry.
it's okay.
Cause like you don't know what you're talking about. It gives me a break because you don't know what you're talking about. So it's just like,
Yeah.
I agree with that. It's like, hey, you don't know what you're saying, bro.
yeah,
I do. I'm chilling.
yeah, like I'm not gonna argue with you. You don't know what you're talking about. Cool. Like what's for dinner?
Yeah,
Like,
you know what it's really so funny though? It be the same people on the internet arguing never even graduated high school.
Oh,
And they be grown adults. We can tell you're uneducated. Don't tell me I'm getting schooled by someone that didn't graduate high school, cause what? Don't tell me you didn't get schooled enough. Oh no, I'm sorry. That was just really, that was really unhinged. I'm
Maybe
sorry.
we should move on to the next question.
Yeah, next
Yeah.
question. Sorry, that was a little unhinged. Like,
Okay. How can our school create a more supportive environment for students dealing with political stress?
I think they should let us talk about it more. I feel like since we're in high school and there is a lot of sensitive topics, they try to just avoid talking about it as a whole. But I feel like if we're put in the spaces where we can, a Trump supporter and a Harris supporter, they can really go at it. I feel like let them do it because that's what's gonna work for them. or if you just allow me to sit in class and be like, I don't like him or I don't like her, no matter who feelings it hurts, I feel like that's still a healthy space rather than just not talking about it at all.
Yeah.
It's healthy to like let out your opinions, you know,
Mhm.
like no one's the same. Not everyone's always gonna agree with you, and that's just life, you know. So I feel as if to really talk about why you think this way and why the other person thinks that way, let them talk, you know. Just don't. Oh no, I'm sorry. That was just really. That was really unhinged. I'm
Maybe
sorry.
we should move on to the next question.
Yeah, next
Yeah.
question. Sorry, that was a little unhinged. Like,
Okay. How can our school create a more supportive environment for students dealing with political stress?
I think they should let us talk about it more. I feel like since we're in high school and there is a lot of sensitive topics, they try to just avoid talking about it as a whole. But I feel like if we're put in the spaces where we can, a Trump supporter and a Harris supporter, they can really go at it, I feel like let them do it because that's what's gonna work for them. Or if you just allow me to sit in class and be like, I don't like him or I don't like her, no matter who feelings it hurts, I feel like that's still a healthy space rather than just not talking about it at all.
Yeah.
it's healthy to like let out your opinions, you know,
Mhm.
like no one's the same. Not everyone's always gonna agree with you, and that's just life, you know. So I feel as if to really talk about why you think this way and why the other person thinks that way, let them talk, you know. Just don't just keep things to yourself because of a different political view.
And then I feel like, but I feel like that's how people start looking at this person like, oh, they're weird because they're Trump supporter, or they're weird because they support Harris, or they're weird because they're registered this. So I feel like if I just come out, okay, I voted for this person, what you want to do about it? I feel like that's healthy. As long as we don't start fighting, who cares?
Like honestly, like don't like people. You know, people come in different parts of life and they vote the way they do. They believe things the way they do because of the way they grew up. You know, everyone's different. Not everyone's always going to agree with you, like I said earlier. So I feel as if instead of just automatically fighting, you know, that's them. You're you. Grow up.
Exactly. And it's like, I feel like this election definitely taught us that like everything's not gonna go your way. No matter what
Exactly.
you feel, no matter what you saw, no matter what you said, no matter what the person next to you said, everything not gonna go your way.
Yeah.
So if you sit and talk about it, that gives you an opportunity to educate yourself and educate other people rather than just sitting in class like, oh, it didn't go my way, I hate life. It's like, no, talk about it. Like, what's up? What's wrong?
Yeah, like talk about it. Endure. Grow up. Like you have to endure it. Stuff like this builds character. Like instead of just yapping and complaining, endure.
I think it's hard to find like a definite solution for political stress because the fact that like politics is again everywhere. And like when you think of relieving stress, you think of like getting rid of the source of the stress, and that's just not possible with something like this. I do think I don't know. I think it's something that you kind of just have to endure sometimes. Obviously, this isn't like a broader sense. Like more individually, you can do like what we did and completely like disconnecting yourself from like the internet and social media. I also think like our social science and like government teachers do a pretty good job at like explaining things, explaining the situation, explaining like candidates, for example, and really helping us be educated. Like for me personally, I have McGeehan, and McGeehan went really in depth in who these candidates are, their values, their views, and when it was time for me to vote, I felt very informed, and I felt very confident in who I was putting in my ballot.
Okay. How can we maintain a respectful dialogue about political issues while protecting everyone's mental health?
I think what we can do is like talk specifics and why we support either candidate or either party, and not just say, oh, I support this party, and if like you're wrong if you support the other party. Like really start getting specific as to why you support that party, what you like about like their campaign or like their policies that they want to enact, and really like kind of defend your opinion or your views, and not just be bold and then like kind of leave room to grow and leave room to bring in new opinions and change what you think based off of what is.
Open mind.
Yeah, have an open mind basically.
Kind of like what Francis said. I feel like it's really. I say that a lot. But I feel like it's really important to talk about why you support that person rather than just like going at them. Like, I don't like them because he's orange, or I don't like her. I don't like her because like her silk press. Like,
Oh my god.
I feel like it's really good to just talk about actual political views and like yo. I feel like it's really good to actually talk politics rather than just discriminating against them for whatever reason. Because that's really how like you end up hurting somebody's feelings. Because now you just talked about my president. Like now my feelings are hurt. So I feel like it's really good to just talk politics. Like you don't like him because checks and balances, or you don't like them because what he's doing for transgender people. Like talk politics and not opinions.
Yeah, like let's talk about the facts and not the feelings. Like at this point in time, your feelings don't matter. Well, they do matter. Like in the politics don't care about your feelings. Is what I'm trying to say. That sounded very bad. I'm
Politics
so
don't care
sorry.
about your feelings.
They don't care about your feelings. You know, Kamala and her blowout tried, but it wasn't enough.
What?
It wasn't enough.
I think when it comes to having, like, it's hard to have these very, like, civilized conversations sometimes, because a lot of these, like, political views, they come down to, like, human rights, whether that be, like, for queer people, or like, people of color, or, like, women, even like people being able to afford a house and have food, that those are basic human rights, and that's where a lot of like the political views get divided. And so it gets to a point where it's either you're for this or you're not, and that's where a lot of like the arguments come in. I don't think it should be like that. You know, I don't think people should be like, oh, nobody gets to have rights. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, like even people that aren't perfect and are like questionable with how they like view life, or something that you may not agree with, they deserve human rights just like you do.
Because like if you voted for Trump, for example, and and you genuinely believe that he is improving the economy, you know, that's one thing. But like if you're voting for him because he's going to like get rid of like gender affirming care, for example. Like I think that's really horrible. I think that's ridiculous. You know, that's just my personal view though.
That is, no, I agree. Like that is terrible. Like voting for a single issue that does not affect you is just weird in my opinion. But at the same time, if you're human, you still deserve like human rights.
Mm-hmm.
But no one's perfect, so yeah.
Okay, what advice would you give to other students struggling with political anxiety?
You can go.
I don't know. It's really hard for me to like answer this. I guess I don't know. Like I have my own personal coping mechanisms, and so that's the only thing that I can really be like, hey, go try this. Yeah. No, I don't know.
I feel like always stay educated.
Mhm.
Like on your side, on the other political side, always stay educated. Don't allow rumors or your own opinions on candidates like affect the way that you vote or affect the way that you view politics. Always allow yourself to understand the wrongs on both sides and the rights on both sides, because you just being ignorant or not wanting to learn or just thinking that your side is the right side because of the color behind it, that's just gonna hurt you always. So just stay educated and, vote right.
Yeah. My advice is, I know people are anxious, but we as human beings have been through a lot, like our own personal experiences, trauma, just the ways of life. Life isn't nice usually, but You know, it's something we have to deal with. And these 4 years are probably going to be very painful to deal with, but like I said like 1,000 times earlier, we kind of have to endure this and just make it through the end, because that's what human beings have always done, make it through the end, even tough and like questionable times like these. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay. So that is it for my questions. And before we end, do you guys have any final thoughts you want to close off with?
No, actually, surprisingly not.
I think we covered everything pretty well.
This is a good grade.
Yeah, usually y'all would say more, but that's all I really gotta say.
I guess just stay educated. You know, that's the only thing you really can do.
Yeah,
Make
Talk-
sure you know what you want above all else.
yeah. I was gonna say, talk with facts and not feelings, guys.
Always be educated.
Always be educated.
And for those of you who might be turning 18 soon, make sure you guys vote in the local elections. Make sure you guys vote in any future elections for Philadelphia, for the state, and stay active, stay educated in politics, because it's very important and it affects all of us.
Very
Yes.
important.
Politics is our way of life. Like literally, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, politics is with us wherever you go. You cannot escape it. Even if you go to Mars, politics will still be affecting you.
Alright.
I'm
Alien
exaggerating.
politics. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm exaggerating, but you know, just learn some politics, guys. It will really be helpful and make you less stressed.
Well, thank you everyone. That was a very interesting discussion. So thanks for
Yo.
being here.